Thank you, Jim. Thanks, everybody. I was just thinking about it. I said, I'm going to talk to you about a love affair that I have with Belvedere. It's a special place, obviously, for our church. You all know that, and for all of our members. The property was purchased in 1972, and it was the home for Father and the True family for a few years until they acquired East Garden. It's remained a spiritual center for our movement. His father continued to speak here year after year after year. Belvedere is especially significant for me. My first visit to Belvedere was shortly after I joined this church in 1975. I was at Barrytown at the Divine Principle training programs, and we came one Sunday. I remember I sat right down here, and I remember because I was writing notes on Father's talk, and then I noticed the brother sitting next to me. Suddenly he flipped over on his side, and then all of a sudden I felt it. Father was hitting everybody one after the other, and then boom. I said, oh goodness, that kind of woke me up a little bit. I continued after 75, 76, 77, doing some church work. And then I was working with Mr. Nakai in Tennessee. He called me up one day and said, hey, come back to the center. You got to catch a plane up to New York. So in 1978, I was called with a few others, Mike Chapman, and he's the only one still here. No, there's other brothers around, but 5 of us were called to work on security at East Garden. And ever since then, this has been, a home, deep in my heart. But not only the property, but the people here are special. When we came in 78, we got to know some very special people. Paul Fontaine was here. Mike McDivitt. Naoko Kato. People these are special people. Nobu-san, where I saw him this morning. Nobu Shibuya, the Shibuya family. Mike Wyatt, Jack LaValle was here then. Mike Quinn, so many people. Ian Alexander, Don Cupp, and of course, Dominic came a few years later. The Funakoshis, so many people at East Garden and Koji, all wonderful people that really put their heart into helping to make, Belvedere beautiful place, not for ourselves, obviously, not just for True Parents, but for the church, for the members. There's some iconic images around Belvedere. The weather vane up on the tower. I don't know if you pay attention to that, but that's classic, After I had been here maybe a year or two, a group of us, we got in touch with the former caretaker of the Belvedere property. And his wife was an amateur photographer. She loved taking photos. So they invited us to their home in Briarcliff and showed us a whole collection of slides that she had from photos she took in the 50s and 60s, 1950s, 1960s of the property. And they were just really beautiful. She graciously let me borrow the slides. We made copies. And then later on, Bill Ortega was able to digitize them. So we have some great memories there. And even more recently, the granddaughter of the Nelsons, Lisa Peterson, met with Dominic. I met her one time, and Dominic maybe more than once. She grew up here as a child because this was where her grandparents took care of things. And she's written about it. She has a blog called Lisa Unleashed. She writes about horses and dogs and things, but she has whole sections dedicated to Belvedere memories, which are really good. And mentioning Dominic, he's the de facto historian now. I mean, he gives tours for groups in the community who are just interested in learning about some of the old properties around here. So this is an overview, you can see the training center in the upper right and the main house in the middle, the holy ground there as well. The property was originally called Z-View. So it was owned by a Dr. Cole. He bought it in 1928. He inherited a lot of money. He was a doctor, but he decided he didn't need to be a doctor anymore because he inherited a lot of money. His father, I think, had the business that created the tire valve in Bridgeport, Connecticut, of all places. And he bought this property, and he's the one that kind of designed the way we see the property now. He actually took land from the lower section when you first come in to build up the section behind the main house. The big rocks that we know, Father and Mother's Rock, he had those brought in from Montana because he liked the rocks in Montana and they couldn't find them here. So he had those shipped in, Why not? Right? Yeah. And so this was a Christmas card that he made in 1928 and 1930. Dominic got hold of this, and it should be on display at the main house. If you look a little close, it's really funny. A lot of funny jokes in there. There's the training center, and there's some guy jumping into a swimming pool. You think, there's no swimming pool out there. Well, there was. Right outside the door here, there was a big swimming pool. They ended up having to fill it in. They had some problems with it. There's a lot of humorous things you may not be able to see in the bottom left corner. Something exploded and there's nuts in the air and some guy falling over. It's really cute, really funny. But that was 1930. This photo is the training center, but this was 1951. This is a photo from the granddaughter, Lisa Peterson. A little bit later, 1960. This is from Claire Nelson. This is Claire. They had a kind of a florist area in the basement of the main house. The greenhouse that we know being worked on, with vegetables and things like that. It was a fantastic flower production area, and they made fresh flowers to put around the main house every day. And this was her working in the main house basement preparing the flowers. Here at the training center, I'm going to try and focus on the training center. There's so much about this property that we could go on for hours and hours, obviously. But the lower section was horse stables. When I first visited here in 1975, I remember walking around, and sure enough, the stables were there. They had ribbons on the wall of champion horses. That section there, it's now been remodeled into an apartment. The area behind over here on this side was an actual chicken coop. They had the little doors for the chickens to run in and out. That's recently been restored as well. And then the main building here. This was the garage. That's one of the chauffeurs' Cadillac, probably in 1958 or 50, I don't know what year that is. But that car is sitting right here. Those two, one door is there, and the other door is behind the stage here. So a little hard to see. Workshop. This is in here in the sound room area. And downstairs, they also had more of a garage. They actually had a gasoline pump down there, and they had a tank in the ground. They could pump their own gasoline. And downstairs, there's a shop too. Koji, I think that's your shop. That's not Koji, though. Yeah. Very self-sufficient on properties like this. The caretakers often, he shared this with us. The caretakers for a lot of the wealthy estates, they all knew each other and they all shared stories of different things. Some he couldn't repeat. But one story, he said here, I was just telling Paul this morning, next to the main house, there's a big generator. They were one of the first, this was one of the first properties that had a huge generator to power it in the case of a power outage. Sure enough, there was a big blackout sometime in the 60s, and they powered up the generator and had the property running. The state police driving across the Tappan Zee Bridge saw all the lights on the property here, and they thought, wait a minute, what's going on? There's a blackout. How come you, and they came in, they said, how come you guys have power? What are you doing? You know, can we plug into your power and get the town back up? So, yeah, right? So, I don't want to miss, after Dr. Cole, he sold it around 1960. The property was sold to Samuel Bronfman. The Bronfmans owned the Seagram's company, Seagram 7, if you're familiar with that. And they had it for the 60s up into the early 70s when it went up for sale. Here's a little sales brochure. What you can't see down there is $950,000. That is pretty cheap today, right? One of the things was we had to come up with cash in a short period of time. And that was the start of a lot of the American fundraising projects, selling candles. So the property was for sale. We acquired it. A property this size always needs a lot of maintenance, obviously. You know, we used to joke that by the time they're done mowing the lawn at one end, they have to go back and start over again. So Father lived here for a couple of years, and he taught Divine Principle here in this room. This was what got the name Training Center for the building, because he started with missionary training programs here. You'll notice that the lighting's a little different. It's just some overhead lighting that was in the garage. They set up folding chairs. They hung a blackboard on the doors right over there. So Father and Mrs. Che, Wanpak Che, she was one of the first translators for Father. And this was for the missionary training. Here again, still in front of the doors. You notice that microphone looks like clearly something from that time period. There it is. So I feel like Elvis Presley or something. So there's certain things that me being involved in a lot of technical stuff, I pay attention to. There was 3 microphones. Well, here they're still speaking in front of the doors on that side over there. This was Father standing on the stage at this location. This is where the stage was originally built. A lot of people wondered, because for many years they knew of Father talking from there, and they thought, how come you moved the stage? Well, we put it back where it originated. And one of the things was they designed the room. They built up the room. They had construction crews, electricians, our members. They put in stage lights, the red, green, blue, and white lights up on here. They took a lot of electricity. They have special plugs for that. Set up the microphones over here. Only recently the window was removed. There used to be a mirror window over there, because in the sound room where they're doing recordings, they needed to see, you know, if Father was up close to a microphone or was he farther away, what the situation was. Here again, this is the stage right here. The stage has been through a few changes. Paul knows more details about that because he helped build them. The curtains, at one point they were white. Then here's the Holy Day celebration. It was a different stage built up over there. So when a Holy Day came and many, many members would come, they'd want to open the doors and let the members sit outside. So they realized, okay, it makes sense to have a stage over on the side here, then everybody can see better. And then move it again after the Holy Day's over, and then move it back again. Then they started having so many celebrations that it made more sense. Just leave it in place, you know. And that's where it stayed for so long. Although the room is still wired, there's holes under the carpet for wiring that goes back to the sound room. So here's some of the members sitting outside. It was, packed at times. Young people may see your parents in there somewhere. You won't recognize them probably, though. Yeah. So here's Father, Mother, and Mrs. Che. I'm expecting this was during one of the celebrations. They were probably sitting in the far corner over there looking at the stage. And back here again with white curtains. This was probably around 1979 or so. Now, and here, this is interesting. So Peter Reiner saw this photo. He said, "Man, what are those chairs doing in the back?" He didn't remember seeing chairs. There's people sitting on chairs in the back corner. So used to be, when Father would speak here, we set up a whole group of, there were yellow cushion chairs, look like this style of chair. And it tended to be elderly members and leaders would sit there. And one day Father was looking at everybody sitting on those chairs. He said, "Listen, you guys," I paraphrase a little bit, but he said, "You leaders, take the chairs away, sit on the floor with your members. You don't get any special chairs." So the chairs disappeared, and we also had chairs for the true family. And it wasn't long after that, Father said, "Okay, look, take those chairs away as well. We all should sit on the floor." Now, the floor is concrete. If you imagine coming in to sit on the floor for a few hours, a few is putting it lightly. Father would, those of you who know, Father would talk and talk and talk for a long time. We had a way to deal with that. I feel like a magician pulling things out of the hat. This is one of the blankets. So one of our tasks on security was Saturday night, get a pile of these blankets, lay them all down on the floor next to each other. So this is still one of the originals, that was here at that time. Preparing for Father was always a big ordeal. So, the security back then was pretty serious. We had a metal detector downstairs, people remember. Mainly it was stop people from coming in with cameras because there was a lot of media bad press going around at that time. So no tape recorders, no cameras. But we were on the lookout for anything. When Father was speaking here, they had a bulletproof Lexan on the windows here, because just in case, if you know anything about security, you got to look for any way, an attack could come. And sure enough, that's not our property over there. So we had one of the jobs of at least one security was to walk on that, put the ledge out there. No matter the weather, cold, your feet are freezing. So, but we had an early start because they had the pledge service at 5. So members would come at 4:30. That meant we were up at 3:30 trying to get everything ready every Sunday. Every Sunday. But one winter Sunday, I'll tell a little story. So with crowds like this, there was one winter, it was ice everywhere, terrible ice storm. And all the people on the property, helped each other out. The security would help the grounds, and Dennis Taylor was living here at the time. He had a 4-wheel drive Jeep, so he had a plow on it, and he was helping to put salt or sand, on the road. But still, cars were slipping everywhere. And we would stand outside waiting for Father to arrive and get a word on the security radio that he's left East Garden. And so Dr. Pock was out there and said, "Okay, he's on his way. He's left East Garden." He said, "Okay." And then everybody's ready for Father to arrive. And then Dr. Pock looks across the field from the main house. There's this Jeep with a yellow light flashing on it, coming right towards us across the field. And Dr. Pock's going crazy. "Get that car out of here. Father's coming. Get that car out of here." And the Jeep keeps coming. The Jeep keeps coming, pulls right up in front of the training center, and Father gets out. Big smile, ear to ear. All the roads were blocked because cars were stuck everywhere. So Dennis Taylor, bless his heart, and his Jeep, delivered Father that day. Now, as I mentioned, everybody has little jobs. We took care of the blankets on Saturday night. There's a little thing that I always remember. Reverend Sudo, who, God bless him, he recently passed away. He taught at Barrytown wonderful, wonderful lectures. One thing he mentioned there was that anytime you have a chance at a special place, find something that you can take care of, something you can clean. And every time you go back there, check on that thing and clean it again. And I thought, oh, that's interesting. So I clearly remember I went out and I found a fire extinguisher on the second floor of Barrytown. And every time I went to Barrytown, I would check on that fire extinguisher and see that it was clean, And I was surprised how much that stuck with me. But same is true here, and especially today if people are going to be helping with cleaning. Pay attention to what you're looking at and give it your heart, give it your effort. You'll see things, you'll find ways to make things better. We put out the blackboard today. One of the jobs that I kind of took care of was making sure that the blackboard was clean and washed. And I discovered you don't want to wash it on Sunday morning because it's still damp. And if Father picks up the chalk, it can't write. You don't want to make that mistake twice, So always tried to make sure it was dry, and I put the chalk out and the erasers. There were always some erasers that came from Japan. I always had the chalk in one section, and one day Father came up to the stage and he's walking to the other side of the blackboard, but the chalk wasn't there. It was on that side. So from that day forward, there was chalk on two sides of the blackboard because it's just, you notice something, you say, oh, this could be better. We had, Paul was reminding also one time, I think Father hit the blackboard really hard and chalk dust flew everywhere. But I found out what happened was behind the little tray, every day, Sunday after Sunday, the chalk dust would fall down and gather inside the little, nook in there behind the thing, behind the tray. So that meant that anytime this was bumped, chalk dust fell on the floor. So all it took was a little piece of tape, a long strip of tape across there to seal it up. And I totally forgot about that until we brought the blackboard out today, and I look and, oh, there's that tape. Put it there probably 20 years ago. Another task that kind of fell to me, New Future Films, originally New Future Photo, New Future Films, they lived here on the property over across the street at what was called East House, right? But they moved their offices to New York, but they still took care of recording and photos and video of Father's speeches, all from the sound room here. During the week, they weren't around, and so I was kind of asked to help just oversee some of this stuff and make sure things are kept up to date and stuff like that. Then when Father would come out to speak, and they had a wireless microphone for Father to wear. If you see this picture, when Father would come and he'd sit in the chair over here, someone had to hand him the wireless microphone. Nobody wanted to go up to Father to hand him the microphone. So I got dubbed with that responsibility, and I would come up to Father and I'd sit down next to him and I'd almost sheepishly hold up the wireless microphone for him to clip onto his lapel. And I had to make sure that he put it in the right place. If it's down too low, it's not going to work well. So I remember I'd reach up with the microphone and he'd give me this look like, oh no, not you again. He'd shake his head sometimes. He'll take it from me, put it on, and he looks back down and smiles. So very heartwarming, very, very personable experience. And that was one of the responsibilities that passed on to Dominic too. He has probably more experience than me doing that. You also may notice the curtain changed. It was white, changed to blue, and then it was a pink, but it's been through a few different changes over the years. That blue matched Mother's jacket. I think she may have picked it. Now, our local church began in the 90s. Father was still speaking, but we would have small, Sunday services here. And we've had a number of good pastors, really great people over the years. So I think Phyllis Kim was the first one to help organize it. We called ourselves a Westchester church. That soon became Westchester and Rockland. For you guys in Rockland, became West Rock. Some of the pastors, Bruce Grodner, we know Bruce, nobody forgets him. Bruce Biddle, Tyler Hendricks was pastor here, Hugh Spurgeon, Reverend Clark, Eric Holt, Reverend Compton, Dr. Kone, Pastor Justin. So, and I hope I didn't forget anybody, because there were some shifting around from time to time in there. One of the things I'll also mention, so I think it was 1980, we still were using the blankets on the floor, and Dr. Pak had arranged to put carpet in because they had finished installing new carpet at the New Yorker Hotel, and they had a lot left over. So he thought, this is wonderful. Brought the carpet that was in a lot of those photos, here, the red, yellow, and blue. They had the place done up with that carpet. Now, of course, what a lot of people didn't realize, Sunday, this was a special place for Father to speak, but during the week, this is a place of work. There's construction going on. We couldn't have carpet on the floor during the week because there's too much. People would eat here, all kinds of things. So we always had to roll up the carpet. But Dr. Pak got this beautiful carpet and put it down. Everybody thought, this looks great. And then Father came the very first Sunday that the carpet was here, and he looked at it and said, this is the same carpet they have at the New Yorker. Who chose this? This is not good. Members come out of New York City. They should see something different. Find whoever picked this carpet and tell them to change it. Dr. Pak was translating, but he was the one that picked it. So eventually he was able to explain to Father that, yes, they saved a lot of money by using this carpet. So Father finally said, oh, okay. We could keep it. The carpets, that carpet stayed until 2002. And to get an idea of what people thought of it, when they took that carpet away, I thought a bigger piece came out. They actually cut it up into little sections and put it into frames. So I don't know who got I can't even remember. My wife was saying it was just for everybody, everybody who wanted one could get one at the time. I have no. It was Bruce Grodner's idea? Yeah. Was it a fundraising thing? That would have been great. Yeah. So anyway, that was, those are a few interesting stories. So I never forget, this is Father's home and his true parents' home. To me, I think of it a little bit like the center of a wheel. I've used this analogy before. The hub of a wheel, that's where all the pressure is. It's tough. If you're in the center of a wheel, you're holding on to all the spokes, and it may look like you're turning slowly, but at the end of the spoke, things are moving like that, but you're only going like this. So you feel like, how come things aren't changing? No, things are changing a lot, and we're kind of under pressure a little bit. The things that we do here make a big difference for the rest of the movement and for the world. So we shouldn't be rushing things. Make sure that our steps are solid and thorough. That's another thing. I was talking with Paul. one of the things that we learned here was to be thorough. Make sure you got all, everything covered as you move forward. Then you can move forward with confidence. There's always things that need adjusting and changing, but if you got the basics down, then you can have success. So when you invest in something with your heart and your body, you never leave. It doesn't leave you. So I officially left the staff in 1995, but obviously I'm still around. I couldn't leave. I continue to serve as much as I can. So I hope you can all find that same connection. So thank you very much. Thank you.